Hello everybody, this is Pyra, and we're just over a month into the new Final Fantasy XIV expansion, Dawntrail. And with the next kind of 5+ weeks or so going into Dawntrail happening, everyone's starting to think about different things leading up to the expansion. I wanted to go over my tips and tricks on how to best prep for the upcoming expansion. Now, before we even start, just a little bit about me if you've never met me before. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV pretty regularly, very kind of hardcore, if you would say, since January 2015. So just over 9 years now, and ever since I started playing, I fell in love with the game, and I've been playing ever since. I do everything in the game from casual all the way through endgame, savage, and ultimate raiding, and every expansion that has come out since Realm Reborn, post A Realm Reborn, I have taken some time off of work and from my regular life to enjoy the expansion at launch, anywhere from a couple days to an entire week from work as a staycation to enjoy the new expansion and festivities. And so with me having done so many expansions and taking time off and going pretty hardcore, I've learned a lot of things that you should do and shouldn't do. And so I thought that this tips and tricks video would be great, especially for your newcomers. Maybe this is your first expansion that you're getting to experience live as it happens, or maybe you're a seasoned vet that wants to look at new tips. So I thought that we would look at them together today. So everything that we're going to cover is going to be in 3 different sections. We're going to look at everything that you can start now all the way through maybe the week before Dawntrail, kind of the days leading up to Dawntrail. The next section is going to be those few days before Dawntrail. So within that week, the things that you can do to best prep. And then the last thing is going to be a couple tips for during the expansion, especially like within the first week, that you can take advantage of as you're going into Dawntrail very new and very fresh. And now we're not just looking into things at the game, but also tips for IRL stuff that sometimes kind of fall to the wayside or that you forget. We got you. We're going to talk about everything in game and things outside of game to prep for the expansion. Of course, these tips are very heavy. We have a lot of tips, and this is probably going to lean more on the extreme side of things, so please take everything with a grain of salt and take and choose which tips work for you best. I reached out to a couple communities that gave me a lot of fantastic feedback and insight, and so these are just thoughts of myself as well of 2 great groups, one of them being my Discord server, friends and community. I will plug that below as well if you'd like to join, and another huge shout out to Firthy and the Blackjack group. They are a fantastic group of people, and they had a similar kind of info gathering session on their Discord server, so a lot of these tips and tricks also came over from them or were kind of added onto from their group, and I can't appreciate it enough. So let's dive in. Now, this first section, like I mentioned, is going to be things that you can anticipate from now, this moment, the moment you're watching this video, through probably like the week of Dawntrail. Technically, you can partake in some of these into the week of Dawntrail or whenever. However, I think it is best to start thinking about these now instead of waiting all the way until the week that the new expansion launches. So the first one, if it's not obvious enough, is buying Dawntrail. If you are planning on playing Dawntrail at its release date and you still haven't bought Dawntrail yet, what are you waiting for? What are you thinking? Get on it like yesterday. I just had to Google it. Pre-order is still available. So if you want to jump in on June 28th, which is the early access period, you need to pre-order Dawntrail. So if you haven't done that, do that first. That is like the most important thing, or nothing else in this video matters. The next thing is to make sure that your PC, if you are a PC player, make sure that your PC meets the new minimum system requirements. So if you want any upgrades, if you need any upgrades before Dawntrail, do that now. Do not wait, because you will have a very tough time if you have hardware that just isn't compatible with the new expansion. Now, there is the benchmark out. I know we are getting an updated benchmark soon this month. However, if you're just looking at specs and not at character creation, the current benchmark that's out there is viable, go use it, test out to see what system settings that you can use. And if you're lacking in a certain area, maybe you're someone who likes the max graphic settings, then definitely take a look into that now if you're financially able, and maybe make some upgrades between now and the next few weeks. Now, the next thing to do, another IRL tip, is to make sure, if you are someone who has a job and who is taking or planning to take off time, take off your time now. And if you have already taken time off, confirm it. I've heard so many people having issues where they thought they had the time off and something got wiggy at work, and then their time off got declined or it got lost in the system. So if you are someone like myself who is taking either a couple days or a full week off for the launch of the expansion, I recommend that you just double check, make sure that your time's in, or if you haven't taken the time off, take it off. Especially June. A lot of people take vacations in June, so you don't want to wait and then have issues with work taking your time off. Now, along with that, with the IRL stuff, if you are going into the game pretty hardcore, and I'm not saying you have to pawn off your children or dogs or pets or anything like that, but if you do need a babysitter, even if it's just for that one day, the first day of early access, or any kind of like arrangements like that, just it's good to do so now. That is probably the very, very extreme end. However, I've heard of people getting a babysitter for just the early access day, just during the day, so that they can enjoy a few hours of peace with the expansion. So think about that now. Just why wait? And now we're going to transition to some more of the game stuff, some more things in game that are more important in the next few weeks. The first one is super important. Make sure you're up to date with MSQ. So main scenario quests, make sure you don't have any open. You could see right up at the top that there are quests, it'll tell you if you have another quest yet or not. Make sure you're just up to date. Nothing is worse than forgetting that you still have MSQ to do, and then you go in day one and you have to backtrack in order to catch up to everyone else. So just make sure that it's up to date if you haven't already. And along the same line as well, if you are someone who likes having alt accounts, like, people's alts, especially if you're a raider, depending on what you like alts for, it might be good to just get them caught up in the MSQ as well. I know a bunch of my friends do alt raiding so that they can raid on multiple statics, and even if they're not going to go in the first week of Dawntrail into the new content, they still want their MSQ kind of caught up in the game so that in the following weeks after the first initial hype of Dawntrail, they can go and get into the level 90 stuff. So that is a good idea to add on there as well. The next one I'm mostly saying for myself because I need to do it desperately. I am horrible at this, is inventory space. And I even have a note for myself here. Clean it the fuck out. I am bad at cleaning my inventory. I'm a hoarder. So clean out your inventory. And I know I'm not alone. I see you. I hear you. I know I'm not alone. So clean out your inventory space. Remember, that also means saddlebags, retainers inventory spaces. Just make sure you have space because you're going to be getting a bunch of new items. And that's the last thing you want to do, is be into like a quest and into the story and into doing the new content. And then you have to go back to your retainer to throw things out, or you have to throw things away, and it just pains you that you didn't get to sell it first, or turn, a gold saucer triple triad card into the gold saucer. Just clean it out. Take some time in the next couple weeks, clean some space, sell some things, get rid of some things, and start fresh. Also make sure, speaking of retainers selling things, make sure that they have space to sell stuff, because you can usually make a lot of money at the beginning of Dawntrail from selling certain items. So don't max out what your retainers have selling. Don't put 20 out of 20 things for sale. Make sure each retainer has like a little bit of space so you can try to sell some great things and make some money in Dawntrail. Another note with the cleaning, clean out your glamour dresser if needed. So I would like to think that they're going to be increasing the amount of spaces in the glamour dresser. However, we haven't heard a confirmation of that yet. So if you are maxed like myself about items that are in the glamour dresser, maybe just clean up a few slots so that you can put some things in there, especially when we start getting the new gear come Dawntrail. All right, so the next tip is regarding currency. So usually at the beginning of a new expansion, you get items that you can buy with Gil MGP in the Gold Saucer, and I just like to kind of do a little bit of Gil and MGP farming before the new expansion, just so that as soon as I'm in, if I see things, I can buy them. I don't have to stress about like, I don't have money. If you are someone who has millions and millions of Gil anyways, or MGP, don't even worry about this section. However, if you are not, make sure that you just stock up a little bit, kind of save up a little bit of things so that you have no issues going Dawntrail. You just kind of buy and treat yourself. The next one in the same vein, the next kind of few things in the same vein about like gathering resources pre-Dawntrail would be teleport tickets. So you can get teleport tickets in the game from different sources, and these teleport tickets give you a free teleport per ticket. This can save you a lot of money as well. And if you have nothing to do in this content lull, this is a good thing to kind of farm. The best way that I found is from Allied or Centurio seals that you can get a couple different ways. My favorite is hunt trains. So if you go in PF, or especially if you're part of like the Hunts Discord channel, you can do these hunt trains that'll get you Allied and Centurio seals that you can turn into your Grand Company to get teleport tickets. Nice little way to save some change. The next one too is buffs. Especially if you are in an FC. Battle, teleport, and crafting and gathering buffs are huge. So the way that the battle ones work is you get an increased percentage on EXP earned for your battle classes. Similar to the ones for crafters and gatherers, you use the buff and you get an increase in EXP gained for crafters and gatherers. And then the teleport one is just a reduction in how much teleporting costs if you haven't gotten the teleport tickets or if you're kind of saving up for something else. Two good ways to get buffs. One of them is FCs. So if you are leading an FC or you're part of an FC that you're kind of hands-on with, you need to get your FC wheels primed. You need to make sure if you want the grade 3, the highest buffs, that you need to start doing that now, if not earlier. So make sure that you get your wheels buffed. Another thing too, especially if you are someone who either doesn't play in an FC or doesn't have control of those things, you only have grade 2 buffs, you can do your squadrons and those items that you can get from the squadron manuals. The squadron manuals are the equivalent to a grade 3 buff. Now, it's just a 2-hour window that you get for each of those manuals. However, you can have stacks of those pretty easily. You can get up to 10 per week of whichever one that you would like, and start doing them now. I love sitting on them because sometimes the FC buffs are not the ones that I want specifically. I might be wanting a grade 3 EXP buff and we only have a grade 2 up. And so if I use one of my squadron battle manuals, then it just overwrites and gives me grade 3 privileges. So keep that in mind. It is a really good thing, especially if you're someone who wants to maximize your leveling. It's a really good thing to have in your arsenal. Now, other things that you can do between now and the week of Dawntrail, level your classes to 90 if you want less classes to grind during the expansion. This is definitely kind of an extremist thing. Some people do it like as a completionist. However, I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm doing it mostly for completion, but I know myself and a lot of people like to get all of their classes up to max level in the previous expansion so that when we hit the new expansion, you're just off in the last 10 levels of your class. Now, if you are looking to play Viper or Pictomancer and you're not used to that role, just a little recommendation, give the role a shot if you're not used to that. So if you aren't used to magic casting, play another class to just like kind of see how that role fits. It's not going to be a one-to-one transfer of skills. However, it will help you if you're just not used to being an all-rounder, if you're not used to playing those roles, if you're someone like myself that doesn't really play melee, and you're like, hey, I want to try Viper, try melee. Just make sure you get the feel of different mechanics in that type of role. It just helps a little bit of, you know, a little bit of knowledge transfer. And speaking of the new jobs, if you are looking to play Viper and Picto out the gate, the best way to get new gear for the new jobs, I'm going to say the best eye level way, maybe not the best way to get the new gear. If you want the best eye level, you can either get the Crypt Lurker gear, which is with tombstones, or you can unsync E8 through E12S or normal. So if you do E8 through E12 Savage mode, if you can get some buddies together or go in Party Finder, you will have a better chance of getting really good gear. You can unsync it, and then that way you can have pretty good eye level gear going into those new classes. And there are 2 more tips for this section. First one is retainers. So your retainers level up too. If you haven't touched your retainers in a while, you might have forgotten, but your retainers need to level up as well. So make sure you turn in items for ventures. My favorite way is through my grand company. So make sure you have some ventures so that you can start leveling up your retainers as soon as Dawntrail launches. Remember, you have to be a higher level on that role or on that class than your retainer. So for instance, I'm a black mage main. My retainer is level 90 right now, one of my retainers. It will not go above level 90 until I go above level 90. So the moment I hit level 91, they'll be able to get up to level 91. They'll never be able to increase their EXP or their level past mine in that class. So make sure you have that in mind too, so that you're not wasting ventures in that sense. If you need ventures and you're trying to figure out where to get them, like I said, my favorite way is the grand companies. Start doing some dungeons and rolling on all the gear and turn that gear in. So any of like the green gear especially, you turn it into the grand company and you get your seals back and then just spend them on the ventures if that's something that you need. And the last thing to kind of do is a fun side. Some people say it might be the most important thing depending on what your true end game is. But if glamour is something important to you, start thinking about dye palettes that you want. So start collecting dyes and glamour prisms for new glam. We're gonna get a bunch of new glam. That always happens in an expansion, and you don't want to have to try to glam something and you're out of prisms. Or if you're someone like me who dyes like everything red and then you have no red on you, it's just an inconvenience. So if you got time, definitely try to get some of those items between now and the next few weeks. So now that we've gone through the weeks before Dawntrail, let's talk about the days before prep. This to me is the funnest part. This is where the hype is at a maximum, and you can literally count the hours down of how many hours you have until early access. So the biggest tip, not really a trick, but it is a tip and just a fact, there is a 48-hour maintenance window prior to Dawntrail early access. I will say it again, 48 hours before Dawntrail's early access, there is a maintenance period. The whole game will be shut down. Everyone, not just people who are done with Endwalker going into Dawntrail, not just people who have bought Dawntrail, everyone will not be able to access the game for that 48-hour window prior to Dawntrail's early access period. So, sometime in the morning of Wednesday, June 26th, depending on where you are in the world, between that and June 28th, during the early access, servers go down. So make sure that anything that you're going to plan happens before that window, because once that window starts, the next time it comes back open, the servers, is Dawntrail. So make sure that you keep that in mind. A lot of people forget. And then you'll see a lot of things on Facebook groups or on Twitter. Why can't I get in the game? What's happening? That's what's happening. This happens just about every single expansion. We get just a down period. So keep that in mind, and you can use some of the following tips during that 48-hour window. First one I'm going to say is specifically for content creators, streamers, YouTubers. Make sure everything's updated. So if you need Streamlabs OBS, if you need like updates for those, or maybe it's like drivers or anything like that, do your updates then, maybe even a little bit sooner if you can, in case some jank happens, but make sure that everything you need is good. I know for myself, I don't plan to stream during the week of Dawntrail, or at least the first couple days. I plan to record YouTube content, so I'm gonna make sure, do some test runs with OBS, make sure that everything is up to snuff, because that is the worst thing. You can only experience this expansion brand new once, and you don't want your stuff to not work. So definitely look into that first. You don't want to be fiddling around with that instead of just dealing with the game and playing the game. So keep that in mind in the prior few days up to Dawntrail. The next one, we're gonna get into a big kind of like IRL chunk right here. Do like a good trip of errands. I like to do a big bigger grocery trip with my husband. Usually we go to the grocery store a couple times per week. We just do smaller trips. During the week of Dawntrail, we'll probably try to get everything in the Wednesday, Thursday before the expansion, and then that way we don't have to do anything during the week of the expansion. For us, it is a staycation, if you will. We both take time off of work. We both enjoy the expansion. And because it's a staycation, we would prefer to not have to do some of our normal adulting errands. And so for us, it just makes a lot of sense to do that in advance and kind of pregame. It's kind of like an exciting pre-gaming trip too, of like, you know, making a battle plan. What are we getting for groceries? Where are we going? What do we need to get? It's just fun. It's kind of fun, and it's also making sure that we can maximize our time home. When you go grocery shopping, if you're doing something like that, be sure to get healthy foods. Junk food is fun. Junk food is fine. Your body will not survive much off of just Monster and chips. It's just not gonna happen. So just be sure to add some healthy foods into the mix. Yeah, you can get some junk food here and there. I know I like to treat it like a nice vacation, staycation, but just make sure you get some healthy things in the mix as well. If you have pets, make sure you have food for your pets, because that's also a nuisance. If you go to the cabinet to get their food and they're out, you don't want to have to go to the pet store. So make sure you have everything for your fur babies as well as yourself. Like I said, we like to get a good rough game plan. So if you can do that at any point, talk with your friend, or if it's just you, make a game plan by yourself, a nice checklist, and get to the store. And like I said, have fun with it. Have fun with it. This is the only vacation I get to have this year, is just the staycation to save up some money. So I'm gonna splurge a little here and there, maybe get some DoorDash, some takeout here and there, but overall, I'm gonna try to just have fun and get some really fun things so that A, easy, I could just pop it in the microwave if need be, or B, just a little something special for yourself. And the last thing for these errands and trips, and I know some people may need it, some people may not, is if you have medications, make sure you get that too, because you don't want to forget about a prescription, or even if you're someone who needs like Tums, if you have like heartburn issues or something of the sort, just kind of like get those little things here and there. It just helps save you a trip. And now out of the IRL world, back into the game, the next thing that you can do leading up to the expansion is, if you're someone who likes to get XP, maximize your XP, pick up and complete a Chloe book for the week of June 18th to 24th, but, and this is the most important part, do not turn it in. So if you hold on to this book from the prior week, and then after the servers go live, you return it to Chloe, you get like half a level of EXP. So right off the bat, you can enter Dawntrail at level 90 and a half. So just by doing this one thing. So that is a really good way to get that extra EXP for your battle classes. Speaking of XP boosts, if you are a crafter or gatherer, you can check your collectible turn-ins for the week of June 24th. You only have a couple days to do this one, so try to get them right away, but you will get the most bang for your buck on gatherers. Pick 2 delivery targets and get the items they want, but do not turn it in. That is, again, the most important part. You can turn this in after the release of Dawntrail for an EXP boost to your chosen Disciple of Hand or Land, so your crafters or gatherers. Next tip is to send your retainers for the highest tier 18-hour venture so you can start them on the leveling process. So again, we don't want to complete this until you are a higher level than them. However, you can send your retainers out so that they can start leveling up with you. It definitely helps when you want the higher rewards from your retainers. And so the next one, if you're someone that cares about materia, is going and visiting Mutamix. So Mutamix is in Central Thanalan, and if you feed him, I believe it is 5 materia at a time, you can get kind of a level up on that materia. So an example, and someone would have to correct me if I'm wrong because this is not in my normal wheelhouse, is if you feed 5 grade 9s, he can spit out a grade 10. So remember, you can get the materia that's already in your inventory if you have it. You can also use your clusters. So if you have any clusters that can turn into a materia, keep that in mind as well. Some people are super crazy about pentamelding week 1 or selling week 1, and you can make a lot of money. So keep your eye out for our little gobby friend Mutamix and see if that's something that will help you. And now the last few tips are going to be really in those like crucial few hours leading up to the server maintenance. The next one is about where to log out. So a lot of people will log out in city states. They'll kind of hang out until the very end. Try not to do that. Try to log out in a residential area or somewhere like less populated to make it easier to get into the game. If your character is in a crowded area and you're trying to log in, sometimes it takes you longer or it won't let you log in because it'll have issues. So try to avoid as much as possible to log out in areas like Limsa. Don't do it, Limsa people. Residential area is a great place to start, or if you know of maybe like a low-level map or zone of your preference, that would probably be the best place to log out so that you can have the easiest time logging in when servers come back up. Once they make the download available, try to give yourself some time to download it in full so you can keep an eye on it, especially if you have issues during download. Sometimes there are just kind of rough transitions when it comes to these downloads. Usually I think it's pretty smooth. However, don't anticipate it to be smooth right away. I kind of feel like I do with going to the airport. If you wait till the last minute and it has issues, you're gonna have a bad time. So give yourself a little bit of extra time to make sure that you can do some of these housekeeping things in case issues arrive. Sometimes the downloads can be started like the night before or in the wee early hours in the morning of, even if the servers aren't live yet. So check this maybe the night before, especially before you go to bed, and make sure that you can try to get your downloads so that as soon as servers are live, you have an easier time getting on. And the last one, we're going back to some IRL stuff, but it is important and people forget it often. Sleep. Try to get a normal sleep the night before. Don't overdo it. Don't underdo it. Try to find that normal 6 to 8 hours, because if you're planning to binge in the morning, or during the whole day or the weeks, you have to take care of yourself too. You don't want to try to play and be falling asleep at your desk. So don't forget that step. It's just super easy, but make sure that you take care of yourself and that you get some Z's here and there. Another thing that kind of goes on the food, like we're talking about, kind of goes on just self-care. Eat a good breakfast the morning of. Sometimes I like to either DoorDash, or if I can meal prep something like the night before, like a nice egg and bacon sandwich or something, meal prep it, toss it in the microwave the morning of, kind of be there, calm, cool, collected, make sure you're eating, make sure you're being healthy, and you'll just have a better time overall. I'm in my 30s now, so I can tell you, back when Heavensward came out and Stormblood, it was a little easier to get away with just acting like a degenerate. It's a bit harder in your 30s. So try to take care of yourself along the way. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and it'll just make for an easier, more enjoyable experience. Remember, if you are someone who's staying on for long periods of time too, and this kind of goes into expac tips, but we'll start it here, stretch often, at least 5 minutes an hour. Just make sure that you're stretching your hands, your wrists, your back, you're standing up, you're getting into it. If you're up the hours before the expansion launches, make sure maybe you do a quick jog or a walk. It's just gonna help you in the long run. So take it from an old soul like myself. Just do some self-care. It will really go a long way. And now the moment. We, in this paint a picture, Pictomancer can paint us a picture. We're in Dawntrail. The servers are open. The gates are open. What's going on? Well, at least I can give you a couple tips going into this. And you might forget it all because the hype might be too real. But it is good to just kind of think about these to know what to expect during the expansion, like I said, especially if you are a newcomer to expansion day launches. The first one is that, just to remind yourselves, queue times will potentially be long. And I say will potentially because I know that the Square Enix team has definitely tried working against this recently, but we don't know how many people are logging in. So it might not be as long as Endwalker's queue times, trauma, but it is still probably going to take you a little longer than it normally would to log in. Do your best to stay calm. And the biggest tip that I can give you here too is make sure once you're on, that you're moving around at least once every 29 minutes. Don't even wait to 30 minutes. The reason why, every time a new expansion comes on, unless they change it, which I highly doubt, they're going to have periods. They're going to have a large period at this expansion launch where every 30 minutes, if you hit 30 minutes with no movement, you're AFK, they're going to disconnect you. And they're going to do that so that other people that are trying to log in get priority. So if you are someone that's like, oh, I'm going to take some time away and come back, or I'm going to go on a 45-minute lunch, that might jeopardize your chance of staying in game. So just keep that in mind. Life happens. However, if you can avoid taking more than a 29-minute period of break from the game, do it. Because if not, you will probably get logged out. Don't log out for funsies, silly goose. It will probably just not be good. Once you're in, you're in. I just don't do it. I just recommend don't do it. Do what you want, but nope. Don't log out unless you're heading out for the day. The next big thing, don't forget to attune to Aetherytes. All the new zones are pretty, and you're going to want to explore everything, but don't forget to attune, because it's going to suck if you get all the way through an area, and then you're like, shit, I have to go run. But especially before you can fly again, like, I have to go run back and go attune. So you see a new Aetheryte, just attune to it. Takes a second. Remember, we will be getting our Aether Compasses use again. So if you forgot where to find them, you can go into your duty menu and collection, and then you can find your Aether Compass there. We will probably need these again unless they change the system, but I doubt at this point that they would, so that you can find the Aether Currents and unlock flying in the new zones. Our next tip in game is back to your retainer ventures. So remember, I said the retainers cannot level past you on that certain class. So you have to level first before they can get levels and XP. But once that happens, you can actually use quick ventures to give you the most EXP per hour if you want to level them quickly. Or if it's like overnight, you can send them on the longer ventures so that when you get back, you can get a good chunk of EXP. Now, if you're leveling and you're on probably a DPS is going to have the most amount of issues as normal, the queues, if they suck for whatever reason, remember, Eureka Orthos in Mordona is a good way to get EXP without having to worry about queues. So keep that in mind, just a little area that you can do for extra EXP. Remember, fates will be a thing again. We will be getting new fates, and if you do the fates to get the new zone riding maps for extra mount speed, it only affects your ground mount speed. It does not affect your flying mount speed. However, if you do the fates right off the get-go, you might be able to get around faster, so you can get through everything faster, which can be a plus. Another good thing about the game, if you are a glamour forward person, and or if you are just looking to try out Femroth, we are getting another Fantasia. And a free Fantasia, I should say. And this time it is going to be locked behind a low-level quest for you to get a Fantasia to try to see if you want to change up your look or try the new race. There aren't too many more details about where specifically this Fantasia is, but remember that the new Fantasia also has the details of Fantasias will now give you 60 minutes of game time that you can re-Fantasia or tweak things if it's not happy to you. So this was a huge change that was announced at the last live letter, and it is great in case you want to try up your look and try something new. However, before you even try to do this, remember the logout thing that I mentioned, because you have to log out to Fantasia. If you're trying to get in the game quick, it may not be wise to Fantasia right off the bat, because you might have to go sit through another queue. So keep that in mind, depending on how important Fantasia is to you, and take advantage of it if it's something that you want to do, especially because it's free. So at least get it, and if you want to use it, you do, and if you want to hold on to it for a little while, that's okay too. And so I only have a couple other tips about when you are in the expansion. The first one, just remember to take care of yourself. Stay hydrated, drink water, maybe keep some extra bottles of water by your desk. But just remember, like I said before, make sure you're stretching, you're standing, you're walking. If you have dogs or, pets in general, make sure you're checking on them too. sometimes it's good just in general. I never forget about my pets. My pets would also never let me forget about them. But I do sometimes forget my own self-care. So if you need, get an accountability buddy just to make sure you guys are taking breaks every, maybe once every hour. I know sometimes it's just a matter of like my husband and I will just like check in with each other, pause everything, just go take a 5-minute lap around the house, around the backyard with the pups. So just make sure that you are keeping some of those conscious habits in mind, because it adds up over time. And the last thing that I could leave anybody with is just to have fun. Have fun. The new expansions only come every 2 to 3 years. And honestly, there to me is nothing better in this game than the newness of a new expansion. Everyone's new. No one thinks that they know everything, because they don't. Everyone's new. Everyone's experiencing this like a deer in the headlights for the first time. And it is just such a fun experience to have. And so just, cherish it. Just don't rush things. Don't rush the story. The MSQ is really fun. I know a lot of people just try to rush to get to the end. There's really no reason to rush. So enjoy the story. Go slow, take your breaks, see everything that Dawntrail has to offer, and you will not regret it. Like I said, you're only new once, so if you rush through everything quick, you can't have that experience again. So make sure that you just go slow, have fun, and enjoy it. Now, that was a long video, but I hope that some of those tips helped. I know I will be taking part in at least half of those tips that I offered. Some of them came from other people, and I love hearing others' experience. If you have tips, definitely share it in the comments below. I think we could all learn from each other, and it is exciting seeing how everybody wants to pre-game and prep for Dawntrail. And thank you so much for watching. If you are new, please feel free to subscribe and like the channel. I am a 14 creator that has been doing a lot more news and updates. However, I also stream live about 6 days a week on both Twitch and YouTube. So come hang out. We have shenanigans. We do everything from casual to raiding stuff with friends and sometimes solo. So come hang out, and we will see you in Dawntrail. Bye. Tales of